All right, we've got our last section here in chapter 7. And so what we're doing is we're going to be solving for x on all of these. Okay, so we're just trying to get x alone. And then at the end, what it says down here, that you can't really see the whole phrase down there, but we have to check to make sure that our answers actually work at the end. Okay. All right, so looking at this one, how would we get x by itself? What's the first step? This isn't a trick question. We would subtract 5. Okay. Good morning, people. Okay, so we've got 2 here. What should we do next? This one might not be as obvious, but hopefully you can figure it out. No. We're going to square both sides, because right now there's a square root and we want to get rid of that. So the opposite would be to square both sides. Okay, so if we do that, what do we have on the left? Equals 4, and now what? Also not a trick question. Add 8. Okay, so let's do this in our heads really quick. If we put a 12 up here, 12 minus 8, we get 4. Square root of 4 is 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. It works. Okay? All right, this guy. We're going to need to square both sides. Okay? So when we square this side, what do we get? And we get x minus 12. What about on the right?
4 minus x.
It is not 4 minus x.
4 minus x. 4 minus 2x and square root plus x.
What?
What do we have to do to the right?
Window it.
We have to window the right-hand side. Okay, so if we do that, I'm going to just jot this down over here. We've got 2 minus square root of x and 2 minus square root of x. So we've got 4. We've got what here?
2x.
Same thing here. And what about here? Positive x. Square root of x times square root of x is x. Okay, so we've got some like terms here. So if we were to write this out, we've got 4, and then it's minus what? 4 root x plus x. Oh. Now what? There's nothing that we can combine like terms for, but we could do something on both sides of the equation.
You add
What about doing this? Because then they go away. Okay. So we've got negative 12 over here, and now we just have 4 minus 4 root x. Subtract 4. So we have positive 4 equals square root of x. Square it. Okay, so we get 16. Let's make sure it works. So if we put 16 on the left-hand side of the original equation, we got 16 minus 12. We square root that, we get 16 minus 12 is
4.
4. Square root of 4 is 2. So we get 2 on the left. And then if we put 16 over here, we get what? Negative 2. 2 minus 4, which is negative 2. So we have 2 equals negative 2. Is that true? Okay, so then this does not work, and we have no solution. You have to check to make sure that the answer actually works. Questions there? What's your question? Why didn't it work? Because we got 2 equals negative 2 when we substituted it back in. If you put a 16 here and you put a 16 here, we get 2 equals negative 2, which isn't true. So then we say no solution. Other questions? All right, let's try this one. What should we do first? We got to square both sides. Okay, do we have to window on the left? I'm saying yes and no. No, we do not. Okay, if the whole root is over that entire quantity right there, the squared and the square root will just cancel out, and we've got x minus 4. The next one over here on the right, we do have to window because there's a root and then there's a plus or a minus another object. So if we do this, we've got root x plus 3 minus 1, root x plus 3 minus 1. Okay, so if we multiply these two roots together, that just gets rid of the root. And here we have negative root x plus 3, negative root x plus 3, and positive 1. All right, tell me how I should write this. We've got the first one, x plus 3, and then what? When we combine like terms, how do we write that? Then we got plus 1 on the end. All right, I'm going to do 2 steps in one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract x from both sides, but then when I write the right-hand side, I'm going to combine like terms right here. So we've got negative 4. The x is gone, but I'm going to put the 3 with the 1. So we've got 4 minus 2x root, or root of x plus 3. Now we're just getting x by itself. Okay, so this is just algebra that you're used to. So we'll move the 4. We'll divide by that coefficient. Leaving the root all by itself. And then we'll square again. Get rid of this square root. So now we got 16 equals x plus 3. Move our 3. Now we have to make sure that it works. So if we put 13 on the left, what do we get? When we square root it? Okay, so on the left we have 3 equals, if we put 13 right here, what do we have?
16.
So square root of 16 is 4 minus 1 is 3. So that one works. We don't have to cross it out. Questions before the last page? All right. So this one right here, we're going to change it over to, let me see the next one. We could go either way. We'll do one each kind. No, we'll do it. We'll keep it in exponent form. Okay, so we're trying to get n by itself, so what should we do first? Not a trick question. Yeah, we'll move the 1 over. So we've got 3n plus 2, still to the 1/3, equals -1. Now, when you had a square root on the previous page, and to get rid of it, we squared it. Another way to think of that is if you had x to the, these numbers are never written down, right? X to the first power, there's really a 2 out here when you have a square root. If you rewrite that, that's x to the 1/2, right? Okay. We squared this to get rid of that root, which if we square this, what happens right here? It becomes 1. Okay. So if we're thinking in that fashion, if we're looking at our problem that we have right here, what could we raise both sides to get rid of that exponent? We would multiply it by 3. Okay. We're not multiplying the whole thing by 3, we're raising it to the 3rd power. So if we raise both sides to the 3rd power, then this exponent essentially disappears because it turns into a 1. Okay, we don't typically write exponents of 1. Okay, so now we just have 3n plus 2 to the 1st power, but we don't have to write that. And then what's -1 to the 3rd power? Still -1. And now it's just a simple algebra problem. Okay, so we've got -2 and divide. Okay, so we can just throw this in the calculator, or we can do this in our heads. If we put a -1 right here, we've got 3 times -1, -3 plus 2, so we have -1 to the 1/3 power plus 1. If you want to double check, that does equal 0 in your calculator. Questions there? Okay, so a similar idea over here, if we're trying to get y by itself, first we'll have to do what? Move this guy. All right, so now we're at the point where we have to raise both sides to a power. What power should we use? Make sure you're not timesing by 4, but you're actually raising it to the 4th power. So now these turn into exponent of 1, so we've got 2y plus 6 over here. What's 2 to the 4th power? 16. Subtract 6. Questions on that? Let's just throw this back in here and make sure it works. So we've got 2 times 5, so we got 10 plus 6, 16 to the 1/4 plus 8 equal to 10. 16 to the 1/4 power, or the 4th root of 16 is 2. 2 plus 8 is 10. So we're good. Questions? Okay.